Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, and we are here in the KDKA-TV studios as we continue to talk about what's happened this week, and it's been a very busy week. My name is Bob Pompeani, and I am your ringmaster tonight. We have a lot to get into, including the Pirates, of course, trading Andrew McCutchen on the heels of trading Garrett Cole. We'll talk about that. What do the Steelers do with Le'Veon Bell and some of their defensive problems? We'll get into that, but the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be what happened today in the AFC NFC Championship games. And guess what? New England is headed back to a Super Bowl again. It'll be their 8th time, and here to talk about it is your panel. Left to right on your television screen, we have Andrew Fillipponi, Cook and Pony Show, and you also hear him nationally on CBS Sports Radio. In the middle, it's Jason Mackey, outstanding beat writer for the Penguins, for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and Tim Benz, Trib Live and Steelers Radio Network. We're all here. So let's start about what happened today. New England was on the ropes. Jacksonville sort of backed off. They took advantage. Fourth quarter heroics once again. Tim, your overall observations of what you saw in that game specifically.
My overall observations of that game specifically are that it was 3.5 hours of football voodoo for Steeler fans. Constant little pinpricks in the back throughout the course of the entire game. Hey, we don't run a QB sneak. Tom Brady does. Hey, James Harrison, he really did come up with that strip sack on the last drive like we all thought he would, except it was against Bortles, not Ben. But that was a little tweak as well. Even the Jacksonville Jaguar defensive backs got busted for an occasional pass interference penalty or two. All the things Steeler fans hated about the buildup, the week leading up to this game, it all manifested. And really, who could have walked away with a happy result that they're a Steeler fan from this one? Because either you had the team that mocked you on the way out of town, or the team that very well may get a 6th championship like you have.
Tim, not only that, but I believe that when you go and play in Foxborough, you're not just playing the Patriots, right? You're playing the cameraman and the equipment guy and the referees. Al Riveron, or Iveron, as some like to call him in town. And that's what happened again today. I mean, the pass interference penalty at the end of the first half was complete garbage. It spotted the Patriots, a touchdown which gave them some life going into the second half. And let's call it what it is. I mean, the blown call on the Miles Jack fumble, they got that part right. It was a fumble.
No whistle.
But that should have been a touchdown the other way. An absolutely atrocious job by CBS. Tony Romo can tell you what happens before the play, but they never went back to that play. That was a turning point. That should have been 6 points for Jacksonville.
And 98-10 in terms of yardage for penalties, too, if you're going to go down.
Just one.
Crap.
The last team to have just one, by the way, Jason Mackey, in a game in a postseason was New England back in 2011. But go ahead. What's your
This
take?
has nothing to do with the cameraman or the officials or anything like that. I mean, I respect those points of views, but honestly.
No, you don't. You just said it has nothing to do with it.
All right. Fair. No,
Jason, you don't think they were helped by the referees today?
I don't
One
think
penalty?
it mattered. I don't think it mattered. I think when it came to crunch time, Blake Bortles turned into Blake Bortles and the New England Patriots turned into the New England Patriots in Foxborough. You saw it happening. Look at the passes Bortles was throwing late in the game. Look at how his feet looked on some of those dropbacks. He figured out the situation that he was in, and it just wasn't enough. How many of those has Tom Brady been in? How many times has New England hosted an AFC Championship game where they've had to pull something out? They've been in that situation before, and I think the Jacksonville Jaguars just turned into a bit of a pumpkin.
Don't you think they also
why couldn't the Steelers do that? Why couldn't
Tim?
the Steelers do that?
Well, that's true. Why couldn't the Steelers do that? That's what they're. But don't you think Jacksonville also aided them by just getting a little too complacent on offense?
What did you want them to do, Bob?
I wanted them to do what they had done for 3 quarters when they dominated pretty much time of possession and yardage in the past game, and they didn't do any of that. They got conservative and ran the ball a lot more than they should have.
You know where I really think they screwed up in terms of management and approach is at the end of the second quarter. I mean, couldn't they have just wound the clock down and not given? I mean, this is kind of counter, Bob, to what you're suggesting, and that was very conservative. They weren't trying to go for points, but I would rather not go for points than give Tom Brady lots of time late in the second quarter to get points before the second quarter ends.
And can we finally put this to rest? The idea now that James Harrison went to New England for intel, or he was just up there to exchange enemy secrets.
Well, he cut Tom Brady's hand open. Isn't that enough?
Right, yeah, that's true.
He went there because he could play.
He was
really
a double
good.
agent. Right.
Yeah, you know, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because the whole Harrison thing that I brought before. By the way, how did he not get credit for a sack for that?
He should have had a sack.
It'll get corrected.
They got to correct that. But at any rate, look, a lot of people are waging war about what this really means and how much of an indictment should it be of the Steelers. I have long maintained that the Steelers had to let him go because it got so bad. I think the smarter move would have been, I said then as I do now, the smarter move would have been to just quiche on him. Tell him to stay away. We'll keep paying you. You count against the cap. Just don't come to work. They should have done that.
They did that all year. Just keep deactivating.
No, I said don't come to meetings. Don't be around the locker room. Quiche on him. Basically, just tell him to go home and fire him. Don't report to the facility anymore. Don't give him to somebody else like they did. But he was always at least the third best outside linebacker at that team, and at worst, the third best outside linebacker on that team.
And name how many guys are better pass rushers than him on the team.
Well, when's Anthony Chickillo ever going to do what he just did?
How about Bud Dupree?
True.
I mean, he's on a milk carton right now. The guy did diddly squat in the divisional round game. We saw James Harrison play in situations the last few weeks, even on first and second down. I saw him drop into coverage and hit a jet and jar a ball loose. So to me, yes, you're right, Tim. You don't allow the guy to go help your arch rival, but he still had something in the tank, and they should have played him. And he wasn't blocked by great players.
No. When he gets at least a half a sack credit for that hit, he's going to have 2.5 sacks since he went to the Patriots. Bud Dupree, Arthur Moats, and Anthony Chickillo combined for 1 since the end of the Cincinnati game.
Jason, real quick, I want to ask you about the other game, the NFC game, and just looking ahead real quick, you guys, before we go to a break. Philadelphia looked great at home. Nick Foles, what a job he did. Their defense. Minnesota came in with the one common thing here. The team that had the best defense didn't win this game on either side. So, Jason, your take on that, and real quick, looking ahead to that Super Bowl.
I would love to craft an argument, Bob, for why I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be able to stand up to the New England Patriots, and I have nothing. I absolutely have nothing. I don't have a huge opinion on Minnesota in the first place. I was surprised they even got to that point, but the Eagles just rolled them, and I think it's going to be the same thing, just the other way with New England next week.
I'm sure those two fan bases will be highly tolerable these next 2 weeks, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I just want to crawl in a hole, Tim. I mean,
like the Obi-Wan Kenobi said in Star Wars, no more of a wretched den of scum and villainy that you will ever see. Yeah, I think Boston or New England wins very easily. Boston gets its 6th championship, and the Steelers are going to have to chew on that for a while.
Well, I'm going to just make this point here, Bob, and not just agree with everybody that New England's going to win the game. I credit Philadelphia for doing something that the Steelers weren't able to do, and that's overcome injury. I mean, this team lost Carson Wentz, that's obvious. They lost Darren Sproles. They lost their left tackle, Jason Peters. They lost one of their best linebackers. They lost their kicker, who was a money guy that made a 55-yarder to beat the Giants. So they lost player after player. Everybody wrote them off, and here they are in the Super Bowl. I know people here don't like to credit Philadelphia, but I got to call it like I see them.
And they lost Gronk, Edelman, and Dante Hightower in New England, too.
And they did all season long for those other two. So they overcame, and the Steelers couldn't do that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Steelers and some of the things they're going to have to deal with, specifically Le'Veon Bell. What do they do with him? Franchise? Move on? We'll talk about it when we come back. We're right here live on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.